Hello, let's do another example with the chain rule. So in this video, the example I'm going to be doing is one with some function f of x is equal to the sine of 2x divided by 2, right? And we need to find f prime of x. For some reason the pen is not giving me quite what I want, but we need to find f prime of x. So what would we do? Well, I'm just going to pull out the 1/2 right away. It's going to be 1/2 times something, right? Because that 1/2, that's just a coefficient, right, that divided by 2. So that's going to be multiplied by whatever our actual derivative is. So we have an outer function and an inner function, right? So we're going to be using the chain rule. So our outer function is sine of x, and our inner function is 2x. So this is going to be our inner function. Let's just call it 2x, and our outer function is sine x. So what do we need to do? For the chain rule, we need to take the derivative of the outer function with respect to the inner function. So we're essentially just taking the derivative of that outer function, sine of x, but then putting it in terms of the inner function, so 2x instead of x. So what's the derivative? I'm going to switch colors here. I keep forgetting to do that. I think it'll help. The derivative with respect to x, of sine of x is equal to cosine of x. That is one that you should know. That is just an important derivative to know, and one of the more interesting ones actually, but I believe I covered it in the useful derivatives video. Alright, so that means the derivative of our outer function, sine of x, is going to be cosine of x, but because we're putting this in terms of the 2x, we're going to be taking the cosine of 2x and then multiplying by, right? The chain rule tells us then we need to multiply the derivative by the derivative of the inner function with respect to x. So the derivative of the inner function with respect to x of 2x, well, that's just going to be 2, right? Do that with the power rule. Just think of it visually, right? That's a linear equation. It's going to have a constant slope of 2. So we're multiplying this by 2. Now, we can just cancel now. 1/2 and 2, and we just get that f prime of x is equal to the cosine of 2x. Now that's kind of interesting, right? Because we started with sine 2x over 2, we got the cosine of 2x. We actually did this problem before in our product rule example video, where we took the derivative of sine of x times cosine of x, which, if you're familiar with your trig identities, is actually equal to this function up here. And if you're familiar with your trig identities to an even greater extent, you'll recognize that we got the same answer. However, for those that do not really want to explore this idea and aren't fascinated by how they verify each other, at least on that front, I'm not going to delve too deep into it, but I thought it would be interesting to connect the two videos. So this is going to be, so by the chain rule, we found that the derivative with respect to x of sine of 2x is equal to cosine of 2x. Sorry, sine of 2x over 2. That's very important. All right, so hopefully, maybe the way I'm explaining it isn't the clearest, just because with words there are so many terms that it can get kind of convoluted, but hopefully you can kind of see what I'm doing, where I'm taking the derivative of the outer function first, and then plugging in for x my inner function, and then multiplying by the derivative of the inner function with respect to x. Now, all the words, but hopefully as we move on, it will become kind of clear what process I'm going through, what thought process, and that maybe it will become easier to do this in your head, which, at least with functions like this, you should be able to do in no time. Thanks for watching.